Hello friends one and all, this is Dave, the crazed collector from Super Monster City, where we celebrate pop culture and all the different nooks and crannies that it exists. Some stuff falls so far from the light that I have to bring it out. I have just discovered this Aurora model, and it's called the Frog, okay? And here's the box for it, okay? And just if you want to know the story of my life, there's like what's in it, just a bunch of random trading cards, but, and it says, "Kiss me and you'll live forever. You'll be a frog, but you'll live forever." Now, in my memory, this came out when Big Daddy Roth and the Weirdos were really popular. So I think Aurora was trying to cash in on weird characters like this. And right at the bottom of the box, it says a Castle creation. And that means it's a William Castle creation, because that's kind of his logo there. And I just, of course, happen to have the instructions, which have the biography of William Castle, who was a spooky, schlocky filmmaker. And we'll talk about that in a second. Producer-director William Castle would rather make scary movies than anything. At age 15, he made his Broadway debut as an actor. At age 16, he was stage manager for a New York production company of An American Tragedy. His title as Broadway's youngest stage director still stands. Now, this was in the early 60s. He was 18 when he directed Dracula. His Homicidal was high on a list of best pictures of 1961, and in 1962, he won the Showmanship Award of the Motion Picture Advertisers. After directing Dracula, he turned to writing and directing for several top radio shows of the mid-30s, including Lights Out, which was kind of like Twilight Zone for the radio, with Arch Oboler, an airwaves chiller of the pre-TV era. But before long, the theater had him again as stage manager and co-producer of The Lonely Man, the only play in which director John Huston ever acted. Following which he toured in the summer stock acting, directing, and producing until 1939, when he took over for Orson Welles. If these names are familiar, look them up. He took over Orson Welles' stock company. Late that same year, Columbia Pictures brought him to Hollywood with a writer-director-producer contract where The Whistler, which was a radio show, kind of spooky, kind of like an anthology, but they turned it into an interesting movie series that was not that great. Anyway, so he did The Whistler, and then the critics liked it, I guess, and that established him in his field. After several more pictures, he signed at Universal. In 1951, he returned to Columbia, and then he formed his own production company, I'm going to skip a couple of things, and launched a series of macabre movies, each fashioned with a carefully calculated gimmick. We'll talk about that in a second. And widely ballyhooed as Screameries, okay, which earned Whistle another title, The Gimmick Genius. Skeletons swooped from the screen and skimmed over the patron's head. That's a really popular, famous one. Okay, and then they rigged up for the Tingler electric shocks and buzzers under the seats so that people would scream when the Tingler was in the theater. Oh my God. It was showmanship of the kind that Barnum would have loved. And then he did other stuff, including Macabre and The House on Haunted Hill. Straight Jacket was with Joan Crawford, and that was his first big movie star movie. And then he sort of gave up the gimmicky stuff, but he stayed in the shock field for a while. He did Nightwalker, which was Robert Taylor, Barbara Stanwyck, big actresses. And then he started a new company. And then he just did a bunch of other stuff. And I'm not going to bore you with what he did, but I Saw What You Did. That was a William Castle movie. Remember, I Saw What You Did, I Know Who You Are. That was a spooky movie. And then, anyway, so this was 1963. And they tell you about William Castle, but I just have to say, he died in 1977. And there was a movie documentary about his life called Matinee, with John Goodman playing William Castle. And some of the movies, I looked this up on Wikipedia, heaven forbid I actually did a bit of research, but he did a bunch of Westerns in the early days. Straight Jacket, I Saw What You Did. His last movie was called Bug. And then he did Macabre, House on Haunted Hill, The Tingler, 13 Guests, Homicidal, Mr. Sardonicus, 13 Frightened Girls. Anyway, William Castle, in all the stuff I looked up, they never mentioned this model. Why not? It's from Aurora. It was a big deal. That was a big model company. That's me, Dave Craze Collector, yakking and ranting and raving about stuff that doesn't matter, trivia that you'll never use. I gotta go. If you like this, tell me about your William Castle favorite movie. Tell me about spooky movies you like. I'll see you later. Adios.